Boys, girls, all my trombaholics out there, welcome back to Otherobert. I, of course, am the other in Otherobert. I'm Joe, and we're reviewing The Walking Dead twice as far, Season 6, Episode 14 of The Walking Dead. And for those of you wondering where Rob is, I tackled this last week that, unfortunately, Otherobert has lost some of its capabilities as a channel for right now, so for right now, there are no live shows, so Walking Dead's just me for the foreseeable future. So, alright, let's get into Walking Dead. So we had really two stories this week. We had an A story with Rosita, Daryl, and Denise, and we had the B story with Eugene and Abraham. And they both kind of, they were kind of parallel, and then they meet towards the end, but this was a very strong episode in its own right. I would say one of the weaker episodes of this half of the season just because of how strong this half has been. But I would say definitely the first half, slower, it wasn't the most enticing, but then second half definitely picks up. So with the B story, we have Eugene actually present a pretty interesting idea, and I think this is something that should not be forgotten. This is a pretty cool idea that I think might get overlooked. But the whole bullet idea, it works. It makes sense of Eugene wanting to make bullets because he says that with the hilltop trading, it makes sense. And it would provide them with stuff to trade. And it does. It makes so much sense. So the fact that he was able to think of that shows how useful Eugene is. And I know Eugene's trying to show that he can fend for himself. I think that's kind of the wrong direction. I think this is definitely the right direction for him. I know they want him to show like he's competent and he can handle himself. However, we've known Eugene as kind of like the smarter kind of character. That is his ballpark. I think that was a great idea. We need to see more ideas from him because that really cool idea. I want to see more in the kind of Eugene realm. So that was a good idea. It was good. Abraham supported him, all that, and then they had their falling out, which I feel like we've seen already a dozen times, even though it was probably once before. It's just it feels so overdone, even though it hasn't been overdone so much. I don't know. I guess since the last time it was kind of dragged out a little bit. Could have done without the falling out. Hopefully this is the last time we see the two characters have this kind of falling out because it kind of feels like an old married couple at this point. So then, they have their little fight, and then we get to the A story with Denise wanting Rosita and Daryl to come out with her on the run. I thought this was beautiful. The run, it's a little bit slower. Denise getting a lot of time. Thought they were really just trying to solidify her as a character. And then kind of thinking, why are they doing this? What point are they trying to get at with this? Whenever they kind of do these mixes in the past, there's always some kind of point, I feel like. Even if nothing happens dialogue-wise, I feel like there's always some kind of advancement or something like that. So I'm just kind of waiting for the other shoe to fall, if you get what I mean. So then the run happens. We have some really solid character moments with Denise. We learn a little bit more about Denise. And then we get to, I don't know, maybe 35 minutes into the episode, 40 minutes at this point. And then I'm going to start getting into spoilers now. So if you have not seen this week's episode of The Walking Dead, you have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I warned you. Spoilers. Denise gets axled, pretty much. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the with the phrase, I think I just made that up. Axled. That's what I'm going to call when a character gets killed mid-sentence. Axled. Because she got the axle treatment. She's talking mid-sentence, really big speech actually from her, and then she just shot through the head, through the eye. Through the back of the head, through the eye. Yeah. Wow. I remember seeing something with Robert Kirkman back when Axel died, actually. And he was saying that for the bigger characters, he likes to have more memorable deaths. And for the smaller characters, throwaway deaths. And I mean, I think that's been obvious. But I mean, Axel's death was just so over the top in just not kind of paying respect to the character whatsoever. And I feel like they kind of did that here. Um, she wasn't the biggest character, so it makes sense they would do a death like this. It's a shame though, because that speech that she gave before the arrow went through her, very, very powerful, and she was really solidifying her. We got to see her act a little bit, and it was great, and I was really, really enjoying what we were seeing. Then the arrow went through her. But for a character, she had, I think, a beautiful ending. She was a character who was always kind of, I guess, weaker. She came off as kind of weaker, kind of thrown around a little bit, scared. Um, and she was killed in a moment of heat and not anger, but just passion and a certain kind of fierceness to her. So the fact that she's mid speech and she dies, I I like that for her as an ending. I think that's I guess a great way to go out if you're going to have a way to go out. She was going out in a moment of kind of strength for her. She kind of got to that point. She I think evolved a little bit. I don't know. Just that's if I'm looking at it that way, that's how I look at it. But also in the sense that she's been looking for this soda for for this half of the season, right? She told Daryl that she really wanted to get soda for Tara as a gift, and she could never get that soda. She always asked Daryl that they weren't able to get it, so she would ask people to get it. They couldn't get it, so she goes out on a run by herself, and she's able to get soda herself. If no one else can do it, better do it yourself. It's some saying like that, right? If no one else can do it, I guess I'll do it. So even though the soda wasn't her goal, she got it, and I think that was kind of a beautiful way to end it for her. That was her goal, and she says it in the speech that it was more than what meets the eye, right? This was a big deal to her. This was her first run. This was her kind of strengthening up. This was a big deal. So the soda, the fact that she got that, I think that wasn't the soda. That was more the goal, right? She had this goal this half of the season, and she got that. And when she got it, she died. So she wasn't able to present soda to Tara, but she got what she wanted, and then kind of like I said, evolved to that point where she was young. I think that was a great ending for that character. I mean, no one's gonna remember Denise in the long scheme of things, right? But for a smaller character, you can still have good moments with smaller characters, and smaller characters can still have great deaths. So I was a big fan of the way they wrote out Denise. Plus, who saw that coming, right? I mean, okay, maybe if you saw Denise was going to die because of the fact that this episode really focused on her, and usually that's a sign. Even though I thought she was going to be around for the long haul, I thought this was just kind of building her up, but nope, this was her swan song. So I don't know. I thought it was a great moment. And we get towards the end, and we have the Carol scene, which is very interesting. I've said in the past that I wish Walking Dead would just write out characters, just write them off, but not necessarily kill them. Morgan, Merle, when they were written off, those were big deals, and people were looking forward to seeing them back. So Carol, who's a character who's become really a fan favorite and one of the most interesting characters on the show, to write her off, I think is a really good thing. Really get people to want to see her back. However, I think it might not be too long. I think from the teaser, it looks like they're going to try to get her back next week. Maybe Negan will get her. I think the Saviors will get her, or something like that. So, even though I like the idea of Carol being written off, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get her back pretty much right away, but still an interesting kind of moment for her. This is the woman she's come so far. Um, to see her at this point right now, she continues to be, in my opinion, the most interesting character on the show. So I guess in that sense, I do want her around, kind of in that sense, because of how interesting she truly is. So really want to see more from Carol, and I'm gonna wrap this up here. Solid episode, definitely a very solid episode. Like I said, maybe one of the weaker for this half of the season, but still very strong in its own right, and that's not taking anything away from the episode. Definitely a strong episode. I think I didn't get to talk much about Dwight, but loved Dwight. Loved. I think they casted the right guy for the role, and I think they've been doing that with the Saviors. A group like the Hospital Group, I thought they were casted all poorly. I thought the writing was poor. Casting is a big deal. I think that guy being Dwight is great. I think so far all the Saviors we've seen, I think they were all great. So I think the casting has been perfect for the Saviors. Some interesting stuff with Dwight. I love how Dwight and Daryl kind of seem like foils for each other. We saw that last week with Carol and Carol's kind of rival last week. So I like that they're doing this. I want them to do it a little bit more, but I feel like it would become too in your face or too on the nose. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to wrap things up. Let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode of The Walking Dead. Subscribe because it takes around just this much effort to do so. Until next time, you've been traumatized.